Hello. This lesson is going to be writing a story, not just your everyday story. This is going to be a different story, but it's so much fun to do this. So, we are going to be writing a story that you can actually play a game doing this, where you go back and forth. And so, I'm going to show you some videos and to give you some ideas, and we're going to get started. I hope that you enjoy today's class. I know I will. All right, lesson 4, no more creative writing grounds. We are going to be writing that story that I was telling you a little bit about. I'm going to be showing you some YouTube videos on how it works and just little parts of the YouTube video. So I'm actually going to be putting the links to those YouTube videos in the description for this video, so you can go to those videos and watch the rest of them. So I'm just going to give you a little teaser. All right, so the story that we are going to work on today is called Fortunately and Unfortunately. And actually it's a game that you can play. So we're going to watch teacher. I think she's a teacher on a video showing how you can do this. And I want you to listen to the story components that you need to remember to put into your story. So let's get to this lady right here.
Today I want to teach you a storytelling game called Fortunately, Unfortunately. You need just 2 people to play, but you can have up to 10 or 30 people. You tell a story as a group, a single story, 1 sentence at a time. To play, determine who's going to go first. Each person will take a turn saying 1 sentence in the story and just kind of follow a pattern of going around in a circle or up and down the line, however you're situated. Other than the first sentence in the story, all of the sentences will begin by alternating with the phrase fortunately or unfortunately. For example, Grandma woke up on the farm like she always did. Intro sentence doesn't need that tag. So now we move on to alternating between fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately, Grandma had her favorite slippers by the side of her bed to keep her little toesies warm as she went out to get her newspaper. Unfortunately, her newspaper was missing.
Fortunately, she found it hiding in a bush. Unfortunately, it had thorns and thistles all over it and she cut her finger. Fortunately, a doctor was walking by on the road and heard her screaming and came to help. Unfortunately, the wound was very deep and she needed to go to the hospital immediately. Fortunately, the doctor fell in love with her.
So make sure you have a beginning and a middle and an end. And in the beginning, you're introducing the characters, where they are, and then some problem happens. And then you spend the rest of the time in the story working towards resolving that problem. And you might kind of think they resolved it, but they didn't. That's okay. And as soon as that big problem is resolved, end your story. Wrap it up, shut it down, and start a new story. So that's how you play Fortunately, Unfortunately. Try playing it next time you're at dinner, waiting in line, or sitting around in your car bored out of your minds.
When you write a story, you want to make sure that you have, for this story especially, you want to make sure that you have your character and the setting, and sometimes you can just immediately start talking about the problem. So that one page is just going to be setting it up. And then the rest of the time you're spending going back and forth trying to solve that problem. And then, like she said, as soon as you have that problem solved, you want to stop it very quickly. It's easy when you're writing these kind of stories to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's great fun to do that. The problem is when you start making your pages in your book, it's going to get very exhausting to do all of those back and forth pages. So you're really just wanting to do no more than about 10 pages. So you're going to have to make sure you don't go too far. You just got to watch that going back and forth. And you'll see when you get started with your story what I mean by that. All right, I want to show you some examples of the idea of fortunately or unfortunately. Here is, I believe, the original story by Remy Charlip, and it is just called Fortunately. That's the title of it, but it does go back and forth, fortunately and unfortunately. I'm going to be showing you a clip of each of these examples so you can see how the story goes. But if you want to watch the whole video, which I would suggest, if you want to watch the whole video clips of these stories, the video links will be in the description of this video. So here's one, and then the next one we'll watch is Unfortunately. So we go from Fortunately, and now we have a story called Unfortunately, and then we have a story called Fortunately, Unfortunately. And these are all books, but here someone took the same idea but turned it into an animation, a little cartoon, which I thought was a clever way of doing it. So let's go ahead and watch these, just a minute or so from each one, so that you can see the different ideas. I wanted to share with you different ways that they did their books. Okay, this one is the Fortunately one. And I want to just when you listen, I want you to listen for the character, the setting, and the problem.
Fortunately, one day, Ned got a letter that said, "Please come to a surprise party." But unfortunately, the party was in Florida, and he was in New York.
Okay, so who's the character? Ned. Okay, and what's the setting? Well, New York is where he's at. The party's in Florida, so the setting could be both places or anywhere in between.
Fortunately, a friend loaned him an airplane. Unfortunately, the motor exploded. Fortunately, there was a parachute in the airplane.
Okay, so notice in this book, it's just very simple. Okay, it's pretty much a sentence for each page. So that is one idea, just a sentence here and a sentence there, fortunately, and then unfortunately with a sentence, and it goes back to fortunately. All right, now we're going to see another example. This one is called Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, by Alan Durant and Simon Rickerty.
I do want you to notice in this book the word placements. I think it's really interesting some of the ways that he puts his words in the sentences.
One bright, sunny day, a boy was walking happily through the jungle, whistling.
All right, so we know that it's a boy is the character and he's in the jungle. Don't know what the problem is yet.
Unfortunately, he met a big, scary lion with very sharp teeth. The lion roared and leapt at the boy. Fortunately, the boy quickly climbed up a tree and escaped.
Notice how much he's writing for each one. And he also doesn't change, like on one page, he has fortunately and unfortunately, but then he shows the rest of the picture on the next page. Then if you see on this other page, he starts the next page by saying unfortunately. So it makes you want to turn that page. So there's another idea. You can put unfortunately at the end of each page before turning it. But here he did not. But just notice how many words or how many sentences. I mean, here he had two sentences before he went to the next one. So he's saying more between the unfortunately and fortunately.
Can't catch me! Unfortunately, a mean and hungry snake was coiled around the tree. It opened its mouth to swallow the boy. Uh-oh!
Okay, notice he put the words in the mouth. He's using the whole page here for his picture. He's got the snake completely on the page, coiling around, and then the big monster's mouth there.
Fortunately, the boy
I'm not going to actually have him read this. You're getting the idea already, but I did want you to see how the words go up and the words go down. So you know, it's whatever you want to do, however you want to put the words on your page, the sentences on your page to grab the reader's attention. Now you can finish watching this if you want by going to the link down below. Let's go to the next example. Now we are to fortunately and unfortunately. So they've used both the words as a title. Now listen for the character and the problem.
Milo, Milo, it was Mum. Granny has left her umbrella here. Can you take it round to her house, please?
So here we know who the character is, Milo. The problem is the umbrella was left and needs to be returned. I'm sure there's going to be more problems. The problem will probably be just trying to get to Granny's house. And it will be, the setting is anywhere between his house and Granny's house.
Fortunately, it was a lovely day, and Milo liked going to Granny's house because she always had cakes for tea. Unfortunately, a dark cloud appeared, and it soon began to rain. Fortunately, he had Granny's umbrella. Unfortunately, he didn't look where he was going.
Now back to that page, you see the words curving. I think that's another neat way. Now, when you see these ideas that you like, it's a good idea to just show an example or write about it in your writer's notebook so that you can, in the future, look back and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to use this idea for this that I'm writing. So whenever you see a neat idea, it's always good to write it down. If you hear a word that you like or a character's name like Milo, maybe you're like, you know what? I think that's kind of a cool name. So I'm going to put down Milo under my list of character names that I might want to choose one day. And that's how you keep a writer's notebook. You write ideas in it, and then later you come back to it, and it will help you when it's time to write.
Fortunately, he didn't. Fortunately, the umbrella was like a parachute. Unfortunately, there was a whale.
Stopping it there, you can go back and watch it later. I'm going to show you one more example of these stories. So with this example, it's not in book format. It's actually the story is written and then the animation, there's an animation to tell the story. Now, today's assignment, I want you to actually use StoryJumper, which I'm going to be showing you. So you will actually be writing it in a book, but this is just an example to show what else you can do with a story.
Fortunately, one day, Chuckles the bear received an invitation to a beach party, but unfortunately, it was far away and he did not have a swimsuit.
So right there, we have Chuckles. We have the beach is sort of the setting for where he's, supposed to go for this party. But the problem is he's far away from it and he doesn't have a swimsuit. So by the end of the story, he will take care of that problem and hopefully be at the beach.
Fortunately, Chuckles knew where to buy a swimsuit. Unfortunately, the swimsuit store wasn't ours.
Now the problem there is it was too loud and you couldn't hear the person.
Fortunately, Chuckles found a free spaceship in his backyard. Unfortunately, it was out of fuel, and it made him cry.
Fortunately, there was an elevator that went all the way to Mars. Unfortunately, the elevator stopped halfway from Earth to Mars.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there just because I wanted you to see the idea. I'll also include the link for that. Now, how we're going to do your book. We're going to use this website called StoryJumper. You will not need to create an account if you're taking my Creative Writing Groans class because I will be giving you a user and a password that you can get in and go from there. If you are watching the video and not part of my class, then you will be able to sign up for your own account. And I believe it's free. This is where you can go to this site. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take you there. Well, what I'm going to do is show you a video of how to get around the site, how to use it, and you might even want to spend time looking up other people's books on the site, this is where you're going to be able to actually publish your book. Now, what I mean by that is it will be out there. If you want the world to see it, you can. If you don't want the world to see it, you can keep it private. I don't let the world see mine right now because I want it private just because I'm not finished with it, first of all. But the second reason is because I'm using it for my class. But that doesn't mean it's going to stay private. Once I'm finished with it, it's probably going to be where anybody can read it. So we're going to get to work, and I'm going to show you how yours can look when you're finished. Now, this is the front cover of my book called Fortunate and Our Fortunate and Unfortunate Trip to the Rainforest. So we're going to take a look at that. There's something very cool about how this program works. Now, in StoryJumper, one thing I wanted to mention is you can now use iPads to create StoryJumper books. So that is something new in the past, I believe in the past couple months, actually. So I don't know anything about the iPad and using it. I'm going to have to look at that. But let me just show you what you can do with this, and then I'm going to make an instructional video for you to watch to show you more ideas. This is a book that you could add music to. You can also add your own narration to it if you want. And I think that's really cool. Sound effects also. So this is just, I didn't finish my book, but this is how yours will look when you're finished. Our fortunate and unfortunate trip to the rainforest. Fortunately, we won a science contest, and the prize was a trip to the rainforest. Unfortunately, when we got to the airport, Miguel couldn't find his passport and boarding pass. Fortunately, his dad found them at home and brought them to the airport just before the plane was ready to depart. And we were on our way to the Amazon rainforest. The flight was uneventful, and we were thankful for that. After 5 hours, we arrived and finally reached the rainforest. Unfortunately, we found the Jeep that was our ride, but the driver was missing. What could have happened? Fortunately, we found footprints around the Jeep and decided to follow them to see if we could find the driver. Unfortunately, it led us to an angry-looking man on the other side of the river. He had the same boots on that made the tracks. Oh no! Now, I did not finish recording. That's where I stopped, and I will be showing you how to do all that. So the rest of the story has them following the tracks and then trying to find the drivers, what they're really trying to do. And so here, I duplicated this page. It's the exact same page. I haven't finished it. I'm going to work on it when I show you how to do it. But this, you can duplicate it, and then that way I'm going to change the characters a little bit and have them break the lock so they can get in. And then inside, they find the man. This guy does not belong here at all. So he's going to be deleted. All right, so that is what your finished project's going to look like. Okay, these are some of the books that I've had some students do. My Lucky and Unlucky Trip to the End of the Rainbow. Now, you may be able to have access to these and be able to look at them when, and this one, unfortunately, Adventures with Jeff the Goat. I do believe these might be available for you to look at when I put you in the classroom, if you are in my creative writing class. So check that out if you can. But I want to show you what we did here. Fortunately, unfortunately, this is what I did with a class. And they came up with the whole thing. We just went back and forth, and it was, once there was a giraffe called Gary. He lived in the White House and was so clumsy he would break things all the time. So we have the character and the setting and the problem all in one sentence. Unfortunately, while he ate the president's donuts, he broke the bowl they were in. Fortunately, the president didn't mind because the plate and the donuts were for Gary. Unfortunately, he was running down the halls and broke a valuable vase, which was the only thing that survived when the first White House burned down. Fortunately, a Secret Service man who knew how to repair broken pottery was able to fix it and hide the cracks. Unfortunately, the president was walking by and noticed the camouflage cracks. Fortunately, Gary was very apologetic about the mess, and he was promised more donuts if he would take a dance course to learn how to be graceful. Now, to help you, to guide you along so you don't, I don't want you to be a runaway train here, and that could very easily happen with this. This is a handout you will receive, and you'll write the title, and then one day that's where you'll introduce the character, the setting, and the problem if you can. Or maybe it's not a problem. Like for mine, the problem was not at the very beginning. They won a trip to the rainforest. That was exciting. The problem came shortly after when they couldn't find the driver, and the rest of the time they're trying to find the driver, and I'm about ready to end it. So you will go back and forth, fortunately, unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, back and forth until you're finished. Now, you may have a moral at the end of your story. If you do, that's great. Just share that moral with us. Fortunately is how you should end your story. So that way, because you want to end it on a good note. Okay, I look forward to seeing how your story is going to sound, and especially the pictures and the book. So good luck with that. If you have any questions, make sure you contact me. So now you hopefully have some great ideas for how you're going to write your story. I will be making a video on how to use the StoryJumper program so that you can look it over and start to design your pages and maybe even figure out your characters just by seeing what's available. So have fun with it, and I can't wait to see your finished project. Goodbye.